Greetings, welcome to Cafe 229. My name is Joanne Chang, and I'll be your host today. I'm in New York City in C.A.F.E Foundation, and we have invited two adventurers and pioneers to come join us today. And they are Hugo and Ross. They're from London, so we are online to talk and chat with them. Hello, Ross and Hugo. How are you today?
Hello, all good. Thank you very much. Lovely to be speaking with you.
It is such an honor and a pleasure to have invited you. You know, I'm a little nervous because what you guys do are so completely different from what I do for a living. I'm a musician and I teach at a college here in New York City. And I studied a little bit about you both. And I have read so much about what you have done in your expeditions and what you have explored around the world in the corners, in the parts, all the words I've never heard of. Would you like to share us more on what motivated you to start with our journey, please?
The journey really started when we were 17. We were very sporty, very much into our athletics growing up. And in my last year of school, I broke my neck, and that resulted in this passion for exploration. We were always very focused on sports and athletics, and suddenly we couldn't do that, so we had to focus our attention on something else, which to our parents' dismay was these big adventures and ththese big expeditions. And our first big expedition was rowing the Atlantic back in 2011 now, just over 10 years ago, which is a bit worrying how quickly time goes by. And since then, we've been trying to pioneer some interesting and world first expeditions to uncover a little bit more about the world and understand maybe a bit more about science, a bit more about geography, a bit more about history. And that's really what drives us, is expeditions with purpose. I think adding to what my twin Hugo said, I think a lot of us, and probably a lot of the audience, are thinking these guys are absolutely mad for traveling to ice caps, middle of oceans, etc., on kind of this idea that Hugo broke his neck and we felt very lucky. And I always say, how can we make a compelling story that people can actually relate to? And it's a bit like when, say, a friend becomes very ill. Life gets put in perspective quite quickly, and that either affects you mildly or quite a lot. And usually you ebb and flow with that diagnosis of a friend, or whether if somebody is obviously taken early from this world. So I think for us, age 17, we just thought, what, we're so lucky that he can still walk. He had a neck reconstruction, months in hospital, and then obviously a long recovery after that. And we just thought, carpe diem. Life's too short to sit in an office. Do it while you're young. Do it while you're healthy. And so that what's really motivates us is just getting out and about and kind of appreciating how lucky we both were.
Wow. What an experience and story, huh?
I think every cloud has a silver lining, and you've got to use all these negatives as a positive.
Definitely. I love that aspect of that. Wonderful. And I studied a little bit about the green bad poles of inaccessibility where you have reached. And you guys are called adventure guinea pigs too. I mean, I'll get to that area later on too, but I wanted you to tell us more about those challenges you face and things you need to prepare, and what message did you get out of those amazing trips you have taken?
Well, after our first big expedition, which was rowing across the Atlantic, something like 42 days, it was pretty miserable, yet completely and utterly inspiring. And we thought we want to do more. And after that, we went on to do a series of expeditions that looked at comparing historic expeditions and comparing them to today's modern equivalent. So back in 2014, we went to Greenland to recreate Shackleton's famous endurance expedition, whereas Ross was the unlucky one that got to wear his kit and eat the similar style food. And we were comparing that against my modern equivalent. And that was a fascinating insight into history, geography, and the science behind it. And, to really answer the question, how hard was it to be an explorer 100 years ago? Because we all see these pictures and we hear about the tales, but all we see these days is, big scientific buildings at the South Pole, which obviously weren't there. And the technology we use to get to these places and access them and understand them is very, very different. So that was a really interesting one. And then we thought, no, we want to do another one. We want to go off and compare how hard it was to be a mountaineer 100 years ago. So there's a famous story of George Mallory and Sandy Irvine potentially being the first people to summit Everest in 1924.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I would love to think they did. And we went and climbed a mountain in Russia called Mount Elbrus, which is the highest mountain in Europe. And again, I was the unlucky one, so to speak, and was wearing the traditional kit, whereas Ross was in the modern equivalent. And we had a bit of science involved, and it just started to unravel actually how this kit performed in those extreme environments. And then, as you say, after that, we decided that our teeth weren't cut enough, and we had all our fingers still and all our limbs, and we were still healthy. And then we decided to go on this series of expeditions to reach the world's Poles of Inaccessibility, which is what we're in the middle of at the moment.
I don't know why we coined it the Red Pole, which was our first one we did back in 2016. We flew ultralight aircraft from Adelaide and flew them all the way north across 12 small deserts, over Alice Springs, and then to the very centre of the Australian continent. We'd never flown before, and I think there's a strong theme with us. We love doing things we've never done before. We'll always go to, I don't know, each other, brands, partners, whoever it is, and go, right, we want to, go and do these ridiculous things, fly across, cycle across, row across, and we've never done them before. And I think we're very grateful that we've got brands, partners, and individuals who really back us and support us. So the Red Pole was called the Red Pole because the very centre of Australia is called the Red Heart, isn't it? The Red Heart?
Red Centre.
The Red Centre, sorry, the Red Centre.
Yes.
And then the next year we cycled across South America from the west coast in Chile all the way up over the Atacama Desert and the high Altiplano, which was about 5,000 meters high. And then we dropped down into the other side, across the Bolivian Pantanal into Brazil to find the Green Pole, which was called the Green Pole because obviously of all the trees and jungle there, but ironically, there was no real trees there at all because of deforestation, which was sad. And that's how we've kind of gone on. We've called them mostly by colours because of the terrain or environment they represent. And it's been a fantastic learning curve. We've been to some wonderful places, one trip each year, and we've got 5 poles to go.
And then, after South America, we then cycled across North America to what we dubbed the Bad Pole, which is near the Badlands National Park. So it's just south of the Badlands National Park. Absolutely stunning. The most beautiful pole and actually even place we've ever been to, right at the pole. So if anyone is listening here and thinks that they want to find the North American pole, go and find it because it's absolutely stunning.
Because they can, because they're in America. We're talking to the Americans. Go on, get in your backyard.
In the backyard. Okay.
And then more recently, we drove electric, fully motorbikes across Europe to the Iberian pole, which took about 7 days. Was frankly pretty miserable trying to find charge stations every couple of hours when the riding was so enjoyable. You then had to find a charge station, try and find how they worked in French. We don't speak French.
And I think the idea behind our most recent expeditions, particularly this electric motorbike trip that Hugo's just been talking about, was pushing the boundaries of technology and sustainability. Yes, electric motorbikes are absolutely fine within the city limits. They've got great range, they're lightweight, they're practical. But when you take them beyond the city limits, what is that like? When you take it past the city limits and then even further into very remote locations, is that still possible? And that's what we did in 2019. Then obviously the pandemic hit and we've been doing very much UK-based trips, but can't wait to get out and do some more expeditions around the world with sustainability very much at the heart of what we're wanting to do.
Wow, that's amazing stories. So what kind of preparation did you need to go through, or what kind of did you encounter any parts that you feel like, oh, I can't do it anymore? I just, what keeps you from stopping, or just keeps going? Is there like a strength there that motivates you, or I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing that really motivates us, apart from obviously the near catastrophic accident that Hugo had, was in 2014 when we crossed the Greenland Ice Cap. We got halfway across, and Hugo's knee sustained an injury, which meant we had to get airlifted off the ice cap, and that was the end of the project, the expedition. At the time, it was only our second big expedition, and obviously that was a fail. So we'd successfully rowed across the Atlantic, and now we'd failed the Greenland Ice Cap. And we used that as huge motivation when we climbed Mount Elbrus in Russia. There's a beautiful, beautiful mountain with a saddle in the middle, and you've got two peaks either side. And we basically traversed up the middle of this saddle and then up onto the summit of Mount Elbrus. If it hadn't have been for the failure of Greenland the year before, 2 years before, we certainly would have taken the lower route and just gone through the saddle and not climbed, because we were so tired. To give you a little bit of insight into the summit day, the final day of climbing Mount Elbrus, Everest has about 800-900 meters of ascent on your last day, whereas Mount Elbrus is 2 kilometers. So it's the highest summit day anywhere in the world. And not being mountaineers, we weren't seasoned to the acclimatization or lack of climate up there. And so having Greenland and that failure behind us definitely 100% pushed us up to the summit. And we've really carried on that theme of using failure in whatever way and form that comes in as motivation, just to keep going, because at the end of the day, as we say, every cloud has a silver lining, and things do happen and things go well eventually.
But it's a lot of our trips, there's always a moment on every trip where you think, oh, this is my limit, this is, I'm about to call it. I don't deal with heat very well, and cycling across America a couple of years ago, I think 3 now, it got up to 51 or 52 in Nevada, which was extraordinarily hot. I don't deal with the heat very well, whereas Ross, he doesn't deal with altitude very well. So we kind of have this balance where we suffer equally, but in different environments.
Oh, wow.
It is odd, but it's very useful to have one person that doesn't suffer, because they can encourage the other. And it just goes to that point where we're all stronger together. Whatever we're doing in life, we are all stronger together. I know there's lots of conflicting ideas, and everybody has their own desires in life, but sometimes you all just need to come together and unite. And ultimately, with the two of us, there's no way he would have been able to do what I've done, and there's no way I could have done what he's done, but together we've definitely achieved a lot more.
Wow, that thank you for that revelation, because I was just gonna ask, did you have a different strengths and weakness that sometimes one may be done, the other person try to encourage the others, and vice versa? So there's a lot of conversation ongoing there, I guess, so that you kind of motivate and encourage others to keep up the path that you guys are embarking on, right? That's and you two are the best friends for each other, I imagine.
We have to be best friends, because we were born together and we work together. So I think it's really important going together. I think there's that famous saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think for us, we're not trying to do anything in record pace. I think for us, it's all about being curious, discovering something new, and helping educate people around the planet through new technologies and communications. So that's the way we look at the world at the moment, and we're just very lucky to be able to keep doing our expeditions together.
That is, I just love that attitude and idea. It's a very outside the box. It's non-traditional, but you are very active and energetic and very outspoken and encouraging about people who are out there, maybe interested, but a little worried about where is this going to take me? And you have each other to support and to, rely on. I think that's amazing. I mean, sometimes we go through our lives, we don't find our soulmate, but you two are born with one to each other. That's wonderful. So I noticed that you have done a lot of research, charitable causes, as well as explorations in different areas. And so I wanted, if possible, can you share more about what you have done for the sustainable part when you or something that you can share with that, this is an important message to our audience that we have to keep up the green movement and cut down the carbon footprints, and because our world is changing because of the way we, live in it.
Yeah, absolutely. In the space that we've been professional adventurers, which is 10 years now, our attitude and our view on how we travel and look at the world, and indeed looking at our footprint, has drastically changed. And even going back as little as 2016, when we decided to fly these paramotors across Australia, they were petrol powered. We had a vehicle support, obviously flying a team all the way around the other side of the world. Now, I wouldn't even think of doing that, and it would all be electric. So we are very much looking at using technologies that can allow us to achieve what we otherwise would if we were doing it in a fossil fuel world. But looking at the pioneers and companies and brands that are really developing products and solutions that allow us to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve, but using a more sustainable and more environmentally friendly approach. So, for example, in 2019, we rode these all-electric motorbikes across Europe. Yes, we could have quite easily have rode across Europe on traditional petrol bikes, which would have been a lot easier. But what are we going to learn about our world? What are we going to learn about the technology that's being developed? Nothing. And really, this was a big question about, as Ross said earlier, is how do these electric vehicles cope outside the city limits, and what's the infrastructure? And that's the one thing we were really wanting to learn, is that, yes, it's good to have these technologies, but how practical is it? And I think we showed people that electric motorbikes are very capable of crossing continents, and the infrastructure is there. So there's nothing to stop people traveling in a more sustainable manner. And our example of going across Europe has kind of highlighted that.
I think definitely from our side, away from that technology and the area that we're operating in now, if we go back to the 2 expeditions where we tried to find out how hard it was to be an explorer and a mountaineer 100 years ago, back in 2014 and 15, we were using wooden skis, wooden pulks. I was eating the old 1909 kitchen expedition logbook food, so I had biltong, fat and lard with some tinned vegetables.
The food wasn't from 1909.
No, it was just an example of. I was wearing tweed trousers, a big woolly pulley, a fur hat, some aluminium goggles, like the explorers 100 years ago. And I think a lot of people, when we showed them what we were doing, just said, "You're absolutely mad." Science, technology, branding, fabrics, technology is all getting us closer to our dreams and allowing us to go into extreme environments with less experience and far more comfort. But what are we actually learning? And so looking back at those explorers and looking forward to the modern explorer and combining those two with science, we found out that actually all these man-made synthetic products are just as good as the natural materials from 100 years ago. even though you've got to understand your layering system. And what I mean by layering system is having a base layer, a mid layer, a bigger jacket, a bigger woolly pulley, and then maybe a windproof jacket over the top. Whereas modern explorers and modern clothing just allow you to wear one big down jacket, and that usually does a huge temperature range. So I think from a sustainability side, away from that technology, we've got so much to learn from our great grandparents and our great great grandparents when they used to wear just a woolly pulley like this, and this does the job. You know, I think we do forget that nature has so many solutions and answers to what we're doing, and it just requires us just to think in a little different way and just sit back and go, actually, do I need a 1,000-pound jacket that's all colorful and, you know, got lots of branding and logos on, or do I just need a simple woolly pulley? You know, so yeah, I think sustainability is a really important topic right now, and I think as long as we're questioning what we're doing and why we're doing it, I think we're probably going to be in a better place than we were yesterday.
Wow, I love that message. It really tells us the technology can help us, but it's how we use it and how we take advantage of that in the betterness of improvement rather than, you know, polluting our current world. That's a great message, because in C.A.F.E Foundation we have 3 things that we promote: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So that totally coincides with what you just talked about in the research study. So coming to the research study area, I know you two have done quite a bit in the twin research of a twin from the King's College at London with the Center of Studies. I'm a researcher myself. I do mindfulness and education and performance anxiety. So I am interested in the research area that you have experimented, especially the one that Hugo took on the vegan diet and Ross took on the meat and dairy part. How did you start with that? Just tell us all, or what the result that you share us all, please.
During I like to call it our down season. When we're not traveling, we are in our down season, our off season, which means that we end up invariably going to the gym month after month, getting quite bored with the whole regime of trying to stay fit for our next expedition. So we started thinking about, actually, it's quite an interesting idea that we're twins going through the same fitness program. From a health perspective, how might we be able to shed some light on a different approach to our fitness, whether that's diet or indeed the actual training? And we've done quite a few to date, but the really interesting one was the vegan versus meat. So Ross was on a meat diet, well, just an omnivore diet, eating generally what everybody would eat every day, whereas I adopted a 12-week plant-based diet and went completely vegan. I've never been vegan in my life. Very, very interesting to actually commit to it. Quite exciting and thrilling, I have to say. And really, we were going through this 12-week fitness program that we were on identical fitness training programs. So we were going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week on exactly the same program. But where we differed was I was obviously on a vegan diet, plant-based diet. Rossi was on a normal meat diet. The changes we found were surprising. We've been working with a company called Zoe, who is affiliated with King's College London and the Department of Twin Research. And they were studying our gut microbiomes. They were studying our cholesterol. They were studying, what else were they studying? Well, obesity, Crohn's disease, diversity of the gut health across many different levels. And we spoke to the professor there, Tim Spector, who heads up the department, and we said to him, we're going to go and do a 12-week fitness program. What do you think the results are going to be from a gut bacteria perspective? And he said, 3 months isn't very long for your gut bacteria to change. So we went away and we did this 12-week program. We then got the results back from our stool samples, looking at our gut bacteria. And gut bacteria, they believe, really helps protect the body against various diseases. So the broader range of bacteria that your gut might have, means that the better protection you might have against a wider variety of diseases. So the studies came back and they were quite interesting. Obviously, my obesity certainly dropped a little bit, whereas Ross's went up
a little bit. Yeah, mine went up a little bit just on a regular diet.
But my type 2 diabetes, so my type 2 diabetes was 7 out of 10. And yet that increased. So my protection against type 2 diabetes increased because I wasn't eating all the sugars and the milks and the dairy products that are associated with snacking, because I like to snack. My protection against Crohn's disease increased, but on the other side, my diversity slightly dropped. So that was a very interesting angle on it, and that was only over 3 months.
I think the other side of it was the cholesterol. We've both got high cholesterol. On our expeditions around the world, we've averaged amazingly around 0.5 kilo of weight loss every day we're on an expedition. So whether it's on a 2-month expedition or a 2-week, we're losing roughly about 0.5 kilo a day. And because of that, we've both got high cholesterol. And on the normal meat eating diet, my cholesterol didn't change. But on Hugo's vegan diet, it really dropped, like significantly dropped, which was really, really interesting. But then again, that health benefit against the smaller gut microbe, biome, increased his likelihood of potentially coming ill. So like we always say, eat the rainbow. It is just the two of us in a very semi-controlled. Yeah, it's not a big sample, obviously. We'd love to do it with 1,000 sets of twins. That would be interesting. It's only the results what we found, but really interesting to put it against the science knife.
Wow.
I found that going on a plant-based diet, I had a lot more energy.
Yeah,
I did have a huge amount more energy. Mentally, I didn't have any tiredness. Yes, it took me a couple of weeks to get into the diet and adjust especially my snacking. I snacked during the day, so biscuits, chocolate, milk in my tea, milk in my coffee, all these things that you actually don't realize. Crisps, most things contain dairy product or milk powders.
Yeah, but of course milk is going to contain milk.
No, but I'm talking about snacks and biscuits.
Yeah,
right.
Wouldn't think contain milk or dairy, but
tin soup contains dairy. Like a carrot soup contains dairy. Things like that. That was quite.
And so you really start realizing how many products, especially in the UK, how many of them contain dairy product or variation of dairy products, meat, and that ultimately is having a big impact on this planet. And you don't realize that until you start really looking at what you're eating.
Yeah.
So I went through a couple of weeks of really trying to think about what I was eating, and I remember I cooked a vegan bolognese with my girlfriend, and I thought, oh, brilliant, let's have some garlic bread. And immediately realized that I couldn't have garlic bread because it's got butter. But in my head, it was just bread and garlic. And it was a devastating night. But that's a typical example of what you don't realize or appreciate what has dairy. But yeah, to my point is I felt a lot more energy mentally, physically, going to the gym. I never got to the gym and doing my workouts where I was tired, mentally unmotivated. Being on this plant-based diet was definitely, I'd give that a thumbs up.
Yeah, and I think the results of all these studies we do, particularly this meat versus vegan, is we take all the positives out of the study that we found and add that into our everyday lives. So we eat a little less meat, we eat a far more broader range of vegetables, and we have stopped eating kind of the butters, the dairy, the blocks of cheese, etc. So after we do study after study after study, we're now curating our I say, our meal plans, our fitness plans into really what works for us, so that we can be far more efficient on our expeditions.
Thank you for sharing. That's a lot of take-home messages for our audience here. I'm a vegetarian for over 30 years, and since I was younger, and in C.A.F.E Foundation we promote it because it cuts down the carbon footprints, because the amount of resources going into feeding the animals actually is far more costly than planting the vegetarian or the vegan products there. However, the world makes it difficult. Like vegan product has all this dairy in it, or there's a lot of processed food there. So it's actually hard for us to eat pretty healthy with like organic or just plant-based food there. So that's and part of the reasons is we believe in like cultivating compassion for saving the lives of those sentient beings and there. So that's I feel like this is will be something like furthermore, maybe there's a possibility C.A.F.E Foundation can collaborate with you guys more in exploring this area of research, or do more activities on this promotion, because this is one of our major mission and themes that we are interested in. And it is a lot of our members across the globe. We have like, I think over 10 million of members across the globe. And, and our master Chang promotes constantly, regularly, especially under this pandemic COVID, promoting plant-based diet, because also there are some researchers out there. It says it's actually, like you said, it promotes better health and also better energy, and it's sustainable to our current world. Yes,
I'd love to see. Yes, you've got the meat side of kind of food, and you've got the vegetarian side of food. And I think it'd be really interesting. I watched a program last year, 2 years ago, about farming insects for food, like fly burgers, cricket burgers, etc. I'd be really interested to see kind of, because that's got a far less aggressive nature when it comes to growing them. There's less CO2, there's less kind of area and farmland and impact on the environment.
Sure.
It's really interesting to see insects being taken into, I say, the restaurant. I know there's a restaurant in London that serves crickets and ants with chocolate on and things like that. But it's more of a curiosity. I wonder whether insects will ever become mainstream.
We need to have more insects in the world. The biodiversity is really, it's dropping. We went to the Green Pole in 2018 now.
Yeah.
So in the heart of South America, in the heart of the Brazilian Amazon. And when we got there, there was a field as far as the eye could see, and there wasn't
a single tree anywhere.
There wasn't a single tree anywhere. And it just shows that these poles of inaccessibility are supposed to be, and arguably, the hardest locations to reach on any continent.
But they've all been accessed. Humans are everywhere all over the world. I don't think we've been anywhere apart from the Greenland Ice Cap, where we found human activity up there as well. But the world's much smaller than we think.
Wow, that's I never thought of that way. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that part. I guess I wanted to coming to the next question is what would be the take-home messages that you have for our audience? Who you two are so adventurous and pioneers, and have done so much different things than most of us. What's the take-home message would you like to share with our audience here?
I would probably say, don't be afraid of failure, and don't be afraid just because a door closes, another one won't open. We've always had a saying that a small door opens up into a big room. And whatever happens in your life, whether that's negative, whether it's a side step away from the path that you wanted to take, but you couldn't take it at the time, I just think, be patient. It's a very tough world out there. It's very hard to learn patience without having patience, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think just allow things to happen. Breathe in deep, breathe out and go, it's all going to be good. Ride with it. And I think that small door will always open up into a big room.
And my message would be, be a pioneer. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, somebody that looks at the world in different ways, is curious, would like to know more, is always searching for a deeper understanding about any aspect of their lives, be that pioneer. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to, try a plant-based diet. What's the worst it's going to do?
Right.
Don't be against, traveling in a different method. Okay, maybe rather than flying somewhere, you go on a cycle tour, or you go, on another means, you go by train. So there's always, you need to be a pioneer and adopt different methods, because ultimately, if you carry on doing the same thing, the result will never change. So you have to do things differently in order to create change.
Wonderful. So be patient, be pioneer, and keep rolling. Very good.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Ross and Hugo, today. I really appreciate your presence here. It's great to get to know you, and this is a rare occasion for me to meet people outside of my comfort zone, and so as the rest of our audience here. Thank you so much. I hope we'll be in touch again very soon, and if you have a last word about your next adventure, please do say a few more words, and we'll be listening.
Yes, we do. So we've got 5 more poles of inaccessibility to reach over the next 5 years. And this year, or this summer, we're going to be sailing around the Atlantic doing a plastic survey. And then we're going to be sailing around the UK promoting hydrogen energy and sustainability, which will be very, very exciting. You can find out more, just search in Google the Turner Twins. We're on Instagram and social, and you can find far more about that. And that project's going to be starting at the end of this month, which will be very exciting.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We'll be in touch again. Thank you so much, Ross and Hugo.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching our show today. I hope you have learned something from our Turner twin brothers. And this is such a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.